Hello, everybody. It is currently episode Route 66 of Dissonant Waves. That is right, the 66th episode where we cover some more 2021 albums. We have Ritz and Trix here as always.
Am I here? It doesn't feel like I am here. I am too
Am I
sleepy for
even
this.
alive?
Oh, I've had too many questions if I'm awake or asleep in the past. Like, you're supposed to question if you're awake or you're asleep when you're high, and I'm just fucking sober and doing it.
Are you having trouble deciding what's real and what's reality anymore?
Oh no, I understand what's real is what's reality. I just want to sleep.
Alright, Sora.
We're not on panic attack levels here. Do not worry.
When you walk away, you don't hear me say.
We have 3 albums this week before we get into a tangent again.
Yeah.
Got Bouquet slash Olivver the Kids, The Big Happy. Squid's Bright Green Field and Lana Del Rey's Chemtrails Over the Country Club.
Yes.
Fucking
And
Chemtrails.
should we talk about my big take, my hot take?
Your hot take was wrong, but go ahead.
For me, Squid is definitely the last of these. So let's talk about Squid first.
I'm gonna just ask Trix a question. But did you like this album, Trix?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good. So Dominic is just wrong.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I respect it a lot, and I think it does a lot of interesting things. And I should like it. I dig where it's going. It reminded me of Black Country New Road a bit, but
I'll say just how I feel about all these albums. Just at the start before I go into Squid, and mostly because I just want to get all the summaries out before I fall asleep. So first off, there's not a bad album here. I don't think any of these albums are bad. So
No.
when I do these criticisms, I'm just saying, hey, this is why I like the other ones more because these are wrong. I would say the worst album here, if I was to give a rating for them just on the spot, is a 6 out of 10, and the best is an 8. I think it goes 6, 7, 8 here. But one of the main things that I've noticed about these albums is that they all have like really strong starts. And then for me, Squid's the most consistent out of all the albums here.
okay.
Like the Love Bouquet one drops off at the end. I mean, it kind of comes a bit back up for Digital Boyfriend, but then like just drops off. And then Lana Del Rey, it's got a really strong start actually. I'd say it's up there with Squid with how strong the start is, but it just falls off a lot more for me.
And I would argue that for me, La Bouquet is the most consistent, and then Lana kind of starts to drop off at the end, and then Squid. I have nothing against Squid at all. I just did not connect emotionally with this album at all. It's like the thing where I'm like, that's really cool. That's really neat.
It's not an album that you need to connect emotionally with, though. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some people who do, and if you do, fair enough. That's how music works. But I mean, the reason I like this album is because, especially in a genre that can get quite tired quite easily, this stands out well. This is quite a unique sounding post-punk record.
I agree with that.
Especially if all the post-punk, like you said, this is sounds like Black Country New Road, but really the only similarity I can say here is that some of the songs get really kind of ambitious slash post-rocky, but when it comes to the actual sound themselves, one, I think I prefer the Black Country New Road record, but that's irrelevant into here. I think those two albums sound completely different.
They are pretty different.
I couldn't list a song on here which I would say sounds like a Black Country New Road song, because they just don't to me. This all sounds like its own thing.
Honestly, like yes, but I will also say, like, if I could think of another sonic influence that came to mind, it was definitely Quiet Ferocity.
Again, I'll deny that, to be honest. I don't really see any Cry Ferocity in this. They definitely would not be inspired by Cry Ferocity, but that's irrelevant to the comparison. I mean, obviously it's not the most unique album ever done, and I'm not gonna... Obviously, I've just said, like, kind of scores here. I don't think this album is perfect. Sometimes it does get a little bit too self-indulgent. I'm not the biggest fan of Pamphlets. I think Pamphlets goes on a little long. But then there are some build-ups in here where they have this kind of whole crazy breakdown that's happening, and like narrator is fucking incredible. Just how kind of crazy, and just like they start screaming and having like this kind of panic attack in it. I guess is the way I describe it. But it's done. There's no kind of pretentiousness in that song, despite it kind of being like the same lyrics and going just trying to build up as much as it can. And it's weird to have a song like that as early on in the record, but it kind of just works here. And it's that kind of evolution that they randomly just go into post rock in this album, but yet it kind of flows so well. This is the stuff that I like about this album. And then, when it goes back to the old comparison, like Black Country New Road, the whole time it's just post rock.
Sure.
There's post punk to it, but this is an album that strays in and out of it when it feels like it. And like GSK, I think the only comparison in which I've heard, and I heard it from my brother, because first time we actually listened to this album was together on a road trip down to Wollongong. And the second he heard GSK, he was like, "I'm going to post this to the Modest Mouse subreddit because it sounds so much like an old school Modest Mouse song."
Oh, interesting.
Especially with the way that kind of like I'm going to call him the narrator instead of the vocals because it's just more fitting.
Yeah, he doesn't really scream sing there or scream talks.
Yeah.
Whatever. Very David Burning it up.
Yeah.
And then I mean, there's a lot of other moments on here as well, which like my favorites are GSK and narrator. I think absolutely incredible start to this album. The rest of the album, there are still great moments, and it doesn't live up to it. Doesn't need to live up to it. When I think, like, I think those two songs are really incredible and well written songs. Boy Races and Paddling are just interesting, and that's where the album starts to kind of show that it's a bit more unique as well. And then it kind of does what it wants in this album. And yes, it doesn't always work, but it mostly works, and that's why I like this album.
I definitely appreciate that. I guess the only thing is that, like, if you put a gun to my head right now, I could not tell you what GSK sounds like. I've listened to that several times since we had 2 weeks.
I just couldn't disagree with you more on that one, because that one just kind of stuck with me a lot more instantly.
And I'm more with like Boy Racers, Documentary Filmmaker, 2010, Flyover even. I could tell you about all those before I could tell you about GSK. But yeah,
I'm not gonna go start singing it whilst I'm tired of shit. But I mean, look, if you can't remember, obviously you can't remember.
Right. Like my favorite moment on here is definitely the screaming at the end of narrator. That's a great moment. I love that. I love when like the feature Martha Skye Murphy does kind of like the Pink Floyd like dark side wailing, kind of like toward the end there, and he just keeps shouting, "I'll play mine, I'll play mine." It's great. But like, I don't know. I really dug more of the calmer stuff because I know they were like a jazz band originally, so I feel like the Flyover and like some of like 2010 where they get into like regular singing was the stuff that really appealed to me.
Well, I'll admit to not having heard their stuff before this. This was my introduction to Squid, so I haven't actually listened to the EP they released in, I think it was 2019 or something. They released it. Yeah, Town Center, which I think Trix actually listened to before I brought this album up. So Trix probably has more of an opinion on that.
Yeah, I think I like their old stuff a little bit better. But
stuff better than your new stuff.
Particularly they had a single. What was their single called? Yeah.
I think I know what you mean.
It was a bit heavier, like Houseplants.
Yes, that was the one people kept talking about. That it wasn't on the record. Why is it not on the record?
No, it was released before the EP, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but it's a good tune. I just enjoy good tunes, and that was a good tune. The rest of the album is just but yeah, their earlier stuff is just a bit better, if you ask me. Still good, but
I think some Squid fans would agree with you on that. I haven't heard their early stuff, so I have no comparisons on this. I think this was just one of the post-punk surprises for me this year. That's why I enjoyed it more. Obviously, if it hasn't gone with you or resonated the same way it has with me, which admittedly it's not that much. Like this isn't in the running for my top 20 at the end of the year, but it's not in the running for number 1.
Sure, that's fine.
I can definitely say this album is better than this, and I'm sure if I listen to every album that got released this year, this might struggle to make the top 20.
I guess it's just like I feel like I don't ever have to listen to this again, really. Like maybe narrator, maybe, but
it's an album that I like didn't know how I was going to get into when I would listen to the singles originally, because I think my first listen was narrator actually, and it was odd and hard to get into that one, but like kind of going into the album, it's all kind of just worked and standing my listening. That's really all I can say about this album. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What do you rate it? I can't remember the rest of Anthony Fantana's outro.
All right, album.
Look, it's it's my favorite of the week. So like,
Oh,
sorry
wow.
to the other two.
Oh,
One thing I did read.
I give it the 8.
That's fair. One thing I did read about, I read a couple things because I did a few interviews. One thing I was reading about was how the flyover was originally just an intro to a documentary filmmaker. And they decided to break it up to make the album a little bit more like, even as you go, like have like a little bit of rest before you ramp back up and stuff.
Pill Street and Global Groove it's kind of what I'm talking about, like with the outros. I mean, but like, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Pamphlets, but I like Pill Street and Global Groove. I think that's where the album does kind of like I come back and win me over again. When like the middle part still good, but it's like yeah, I'm really into Pill Street and Global Groove. So not as much as GSK and Narrator, but it's like
sure. Apparently, they did this thing where they talked to this Japanese scientist, and there's like this method of like showing people like imagery and like having them listen to the music. And then the scientists will be able to like get like an image of what these people were kind of thinking about when they were listening and like seeing this stuff. And then they sent that data to Squid, and that's how the album art became to be. It's kind of like a direct feedback into what they were thinking they experienced.
That's pretty cool.
So that I dug that idea of just like let's see what people think of when they think of what we make. I think that's where the album kind of like the name kind of came from too, or at least part of it.
Yeah, that's actually really cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the Avalanches. It reminded me of.
Yeah, Star Image. Is that something that no Starsong.img.
Yeah.
Their website's also very strange. Like it's very interactive, and like they have like message boards and everything, and I'm just like, what 2010 hole did I fall into?
And now we've only got a couple more English post-punk. I guess we call it post-punk, but there's definitely a lot more ways to call them. To go this year. I don't know if we're gonna do Shame. Black Midi, I know, is on the cards.
All right.
I mean,
and then there's like some Swedish stuff to get into. So
interesting.
I'll be surprised if you don't pick Cavalcade before the end of the year.
It's on my to-do list. It's not going to be next week. Next week's already planned out. That's where I'm gonna get. That's where I'm getting my positive reviews from Tricks.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
but
I can't be bothered with favorites or least favorites on this one, by the way, because I kind of already said them.
Yeah.
I do appreciate stuff too. Like Resolution Square is very like sound collagey, and I really dug that kind of like. And whenever we talk about sound collages, I'm always gonna think of like Jeff Mangum, like the early Neutral Milk stuff. But I always do dig that kind of just experimenting with noises and putting them together and seeing how they work. So, like I said, there's a lot that I admire, and there's a lot I think is interesting. Boy Racers is interesting, like the way it kind of ends and like that droning tone. I believe, yes, I think that's the song where they play what's called a racket, like a medieval instrument. They kind of like got some samples of that and then pitch shifted it to fit the song. Like they've done some really cool stuff. You know, they really kind of like came through during lockdown, but like I don't know what it is about this album that I cannot like connect to as much as I can connect to the others. Like if I were to pick favorites, sure, Narrator, Flyover, 2010. Least favorite would probably be like a GSK because it does not leave an impression on me at all.
Shall we move on to the next one?
Tricks, do you have any favorites, least favorites?
I don't really have a favorite, least favorite. This album just kind of washed over me. I think it's gonna be an album I come back and like listen to, but like not an album I'd like listen to, if that makes sense.
Fair.
I'm intrigued by this because I totally expected Squid to win it all. Like they both were like fucking in love with it, and I'm just like it's like a fucking like Last Dinosaur situation all over again. But you know, I guess shit happens.
Yeah.
What do you want to go next?
I feel like getting La Bouquet out of the way because it's like Lana Del Rey is probably the most famous out of all these ones, so may as well do it last.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
La Bouquet and Olivver the Kid's The Big Happy, which once I started doing research became really fascinating and interesting. Considering this is like their last album of two.
Yeah.
And like looking at their Twitter, they were just talking about, oh yeah, it's the last go around, or it's we're done after this. It's like, why? What happened? All of a sudden, like songs from the last EP are appearing on this record, and I'm not sure if that was totally intentional or not, because they just started appearing there, and I feel like the album just kind of got shoved out. What? Oh, okay, something happened. Hello?
Yeah, you're there still.
Okay,
Yeah, we're here.
I think it froze up for a second. I think the album just kind of got shoved out real quick, and I don't see really anything about it except from like a few fans who really dig it. I feel like all their other stuff got a lot more exposure and popularity.
Yeah.
It's alright. This is my least favorite of the week, by the way. So that's
Fair
like
enough.
spoils the rankings. Because it has a good start. I like Love is Overrated and Easy, but then I don't know, it's too samey. It doesn't flow that well, and it makes sense obviously when it's just kind of like turned into a bit of a compilation. Like this feels like a Itacoma Hits, but the differences between this and Itacoma Hits is that album or that compilation, all the sounds were so similar on it, and it was so much shorter of an album that it kind of just flowed a lot better. Everything fitted together. Here, I don't know. It starts off like really promising. I think Love is Overrated is a tune, very kind of like catchy.
Yeah.
And the other one that was like that feels like it fits with that vibe. It was Digital Boyfriend, and then everything else. I don't really hate anything of this record. This isn't an album to hate. I think if you like this type of genre, you may as well just give this a listen because you'll find some new bops to it.
Oh yeah.
And it's definitely an above average album, but that's just where it stays for me. And then the kind of ending to this after Digital Boyfriend, the rest is forgettable. I couldn't tell you about the title track at all, or the closer. And some of the better songs on here, again, I said Digital Boyfriend, were the songs that were already made. So
Right.
you're probably correct in your
Yeah.
assumption that this is an album that they kind of just pushed out. It seems like they're probably intending to make something much bigger. And I'm not going to throw any assumptions around. Band members have decided to stop doing the band. That's them.
Right.
Going around.
Like-
You leave it at that until they say anything.
Sure.
But you can say, for an example, if it's the case that they just had a fight and they've had contract obligations or something to get this through. I know I just now thrown an accusation, but I genuinely don't know. Don't go quoting that around everybody. They might not like that stuff going right.
I mean, they could have
say
left
this
amicably or
is the
something.
yeah. If that's the case, I feel like it would make sense because, especially in this day and age, there's actually no point to put out a regular album full of all your old stuff because all your old stuff's like already on the streaming and
Right.
stuff like that. Now, you do see, obviously, we talked I think last week about the Tones and I situation with the album, where apparently the deluxe edition of it was on the highest streaming and stuff like that. But in that case as well, that deluxe is just the EP, and that was intentionally just to get to the high streaming levels. When you're at a level like this, it doesn't matter for shit. You're not getting anything from putting all your old stuff on here,
Although
unless you needed to get an album out.
but I think it's part of like what you were saying though. It's like the stuff that was on the old EP got way more streams than anything that they just released.
Yeah.
Like by like a magnitude of quite a bit. Like looking at Spotify. So if they're trying to put like Digital Boyfriend and Midlife Time Crisis to kind of like boost the numbers a little bit, I could totally see that. I'm not going to say that's exactly what happened or anything, but
yeah, I guess you could probably put that in a case. But here's the other thing: is that like they've put in so many of them on here that it doesn't really matter. Like one or two, maybe, yeah, but it's kind of just like a lot of them. They've needed to really fill out the album.
like the thing that struck me is
you would feel like.
Go ahead. Hello. 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 Fuck. Well, I think my Discord crashed. Everybody, that's a fun time. I am recording. I think. Shit. Oh, Discord is restarting. Give me a second here. Am I recording? Yes, I am still recording. My internet went out. That's fucking fun.
All right. Hello, everybody.
This is some weird technical difficulties.
It is now an hour and a half later than recording the first time of this episode, where my computer just completely shat itself. That was fun. It's still
Indeed.
updating and cleaning up, quote unquote. We just need a technical difficulty every year to happen. That's just how it works.
Indeed.
So where do we leave off?
We were talking about La Bouquet.
Do you remember what happened before I disappeared?
Ritalin was talking about how the album didn't really stand out to him.
Yes. Okay.
But,
well, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much. I'm hoping I can just get back to my computer and have all the files ready to go. But in case something
hopefully,
catastrophic really happens, let's quickly recap. We also talked about Squid's Bright Green Field. We were not very hot on that,
indeed.
but Ritalin liked it more.
I think it's my number 2.
It's his number 1, my number 3. An album that I respect a lot, but just did not feel anything for. I could never really. I could, like, if I never listened to it again, I might want to listen to Narrator, but other than that, I don't really care. But it's cool. I dig what it's trying to do. But anyway, La Bouquet.
It's just fun and kind of like nerdy record.
Yeah, it's very weird how it's just like this last album that kind of just came out of nowhere, seemingly. Like, you just picked it on a whim, and then I started looking into it, and there's this whole big thing about, like, oh, it's the last album all of a sudden, and the songs from their last EP that came out at the end of last year are just now on the record, and I just feel like something happened.
Yeah.
The point I was going to make before my computer completely gave itself up was how it was strange it was to me that Olivver the Kid got a separate credit when Olivver the Kid is just the lead singer of La Bouquet.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
Brian Simas, I think is his name. Yeah, something like that. Brian Samus, formerly of The Neighborhood, known as Olivver the Kid, and was now in La Bouquet, and that is now ended, I guess. But yeah, I feel like just something happened. I mean, obviously we don't know, but I don't know. It does not feel kosher, I guess.
Yeah, I feel that.
It seemed like their last EP got quite a number of streams, and then those songs they added to the album, and the album does not seem to have gotten as much attention for some reason. I think it was self-released even.
Yeah.
And I think they had a label before, so something happened with the label probably.
I will say it's a shame because during this week I was also listening to some of their older stuff, and they just can write some tunes like holy shit.
Yeah, I was reading that I guess one of their day jobs, I don't know, I think it might have been Samus's, is that he's a jingle writer for commercials. So
that makes sense.
He's able to come up with a lot of tunes.
They can write some earworms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This album does the thing I think has now become a trend of this year, just by coincidence, in that in the middle of it they just have a 20-second track for no reason, and it's just fun.
Yeah, XXL.
Triple XL.
Triple XL.
Triple X.
XL.
Dope Throne had that. Dog Band had that. Now they're big happy.
Yeah. All albums I've picked.
Yes. What were you gonna say?
There's a couple voicemails on this album.
Yeah. Was it?
Or what feel like them?
Was it Friends that had one, or Cowboy Bebop?
It was Friends, and I believe, and Triple XL kind of started off with what sounded like a phone recording.
Okay. I think, yeah. Okay. So yeah. The one for Friends. I'm trying to remember what it was about.
It was just like downtown summertime or something like that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I have my notes. Voicemail to Brian, downtown summer, the Samus. I know it was kind of weird. It wasn't like amazingly memorable or anything. I don't know if it stacks up necessarily against some of the other ones we listened to.
yeah,
Also, for the record, I'm literally just on my phone. Like I'm
yeah.
just
So
talking
like
into it like
if
a phone call.
yeah, if we can get there will be like a weird uh change in like just quality from like the first half of this episode to the last half. If we can even salvage the first half.
Yeah, I mean, we will see. I know for a few minutes there, let's just like trying to keep going and hopefully getting it back together, but it really did not like anything that happened.
Yeah,
So
it happens.
I'm hoping I can restore it eventually, or if it finishes updating, it'll just come back. But it's still on the cleaning up screen that all the updates have gone through, and now still at 0%. But anyway, I just thought this was a really solid album all the way throughout, and I do think the EP tracks really help it. But
Yeah,
I thought like there was nothing really wrong. Like I don't really think it even dipped down very much. I think Doom and Gloom might be the only song that may have felt a little bit lesser, but like I
fair
thought
enough.
it was really solid from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
it's an album I'll
but
keep coming back to. I think.
yeah, like I already got like How's It Gonna End in my rotation. I really like that. And like I might just go ahead and get the whole album, like Love is Overrated, Easy, Good Stuff, Digital Boyfriend. A Midlife Time Crisis is very catchy.
Oh yeah,
And so it's like you get to the second half of the album, there's just so much still to to be intrigued by. Like Life's a Lot being like a folky kind of song is interesting.
yeah. And I
Like
will say I like the terminology of the big happy because like I've
yeah,
referred to like depression as like the big sad before, but I've never like thought to like flip it on around on the other way.
right. And how they just keep trying to chase the big happy and hopefully, something works out in the end.
Yeah,
But I think that's
good mood.
interesting and like a cool mood. Like, yeah. I know Ritalin was talking about how that by that point he was not as engaged in it, but I could not disagree like more. Like I thought
Yeah,
like most tracks had something that was still like keeping you on guard or like or off guard or like kind of intriguing you even when you think that it's run out of stuff to do.
yeah. It's a real fascinating album.
Yeah, very surprised. Like I'm very surprised how much it's really kind of come into its own. I feel like this is definitely a kind of pick you've chosen before that's done all right, but I feel like this is
Yeah,
finally the week for that to really come to its own.
definitely.
Like it's definitely in like that hippocampus pop rock kind of stuff in a way,
Yeah,
but even then it's more
especially when you
expansive.
compare it to like the latest Hippocampus EP, they fit in perfectly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like 10 Things You Hate About Me. I'm just thinking about that right now. That's a good song. Trying to think of anything else. I, it's just one of those things where I just wonder what could have happened, and I feel like there are features on this album that don't really get brought up. Like Armors
yeah,
is
and
on a
like because
track.
you can't really like see the features because like Oliver the Kid is kind of like just taking up the entire bar on my end at least.
Yeah, and like you really have to like kind of dig into the track information to see like, oh, Jez Door, I don't know, Jez Door and Lost Boy Crow were on Friends, and
Yeah,
guy, um, Tripper was on Doom and Gloom. Okay, so I don't
somebody
know if
was
this
on
was a
Big Happy too.
someone's on the Big
At least
Happy. I didn't even see that.
I think so.
I don't know if there was like an ego thing happening here or what.
I don't know. Let's see here. I'm pulling it up. I will say also, awesome album art.
I don't think it fits at all, to be honest with you.
It does not, but I dig it. There was not anybody on Big Happy. I thought there was.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it doesn't fit
But
the album, but I do like the actual work itself.
I think I like the single arts but a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
I posted those where they're just like the really like grotesque paintings,
Yeah. I have my noise
which is
reduction
also weird
on
because
Discord. Hopefully that works
those
out. I just
singles.
have one more thing happening.
I think those singles were also just like the fucking the just the EP tracks too, which is weird.
I think a number of them were because the EP had singles as well.
Yeah.
But I think a couple were done specifically for the album. Let's see. 10 Things You Hate About Me is a single for the album, and Easy is another one. But
Mhm.
Friends, Midlife Time Crisis, and Digital Boyfriend are all from Chaotic Good, the last EP they had.
Yeah.
And that's like those are some of the best songs on there. And so I'm really curious what this would have been like without them.
Yeah. I wonder what would have replaced them if they recorded new songs for it.
I think they just couldn't record new songs. They didn't. Like I feel like they just got to a point and then it was like, okay, let's just do what we can, I guess. That's just the
Yeah.
impression that I get. Like they had to stop for some reason
Yeah.
and they just filled it out with EP recordings, which no, there's good songs on the EP.
Indeed.
I know he had us listen to Anxiety and My Best Friend, and I think I'm glad they didn't include it on the album because I don't think it would have fit.
No, but Anxiety, My Best Friend, is a bop.
But like yeah, there's like 2 songs in the EP now that are not on here. And honestly, like
Yeah.
that probably would have been my least favorite of a track if it was included. Like I think it's of what I've listened to, that song is like my least favorite of theirs.
Fair enough. I'll link some of their other stuff later because it's good. And like they're really guitar heavy, but really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like I know they were a trio and then they became a
Album good.
duo. The album good. There's so many questions I have. It's a very strange and interesting art project.
Indeed.
Like from everything I was reading in interviews, they were very aware of like money and trying to, keep the thing going and having like some kind of money coming from it. That's why they had like put out their first EP, and I know their first album they had to sit on for like 2 years, I want to say, because of the label
I
they were
didn't
working
read into
with.
any of that, but
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. So it sounded like they had kind of a tough time. So maybe they just got tired of it. I don't know.
Who knows?
My cleaning up screen has finally gotten to
I'll
100%. That's nice.
yeah, I'll continue to follow their solo careers, I guess, if they have them.
Yeah, please keep tabs on them. I'm very curious. Like we might have to just kind of like dive deeper into them at some point.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm just very curious about learning more if I can, because all the interviews I've read are from the first album release, like the whole press tour kind of thing after that.
Yeah.
Like
Maybe
there's
we could figure out a way to interview them.
maybe I feel like they're a little bit too big for us, but we could try.
Maybe, but like
I
yeah, who
just
knows? We'll see.
I just feel like there's been nothing about this album at all.
Yeah, like I completely just stumbled onto it. Like
Right.
Anxiety, My Best Friend came up on the radio. I'm like, oh, this song's cool. Oh, they have an album coming out. I'll do that.
Or like maybe it's because the album was
So
still
yeah,
pretty new. It came out like a month ago now. But it just seems very suspicious to me that like
yeah. You'd think
their
that
other
there'd be like
songs,
some pre-show,
yeah,
pre-release material.
like their other songs from the EP even had a number of streams, like way more than what's on the album. So like when they include those songs on the album, it has that whole Tones and I effect of, hey, these songs have done really well, but they're from an EP before. But
Yeah,
like the only place I've really seen people talk about the new album is their Twitter page, and they're just retweeting people who really seem to love it.
yeah,
And it's just like some shit has happened. I can't understand what it is yet, but I am intrigued.
yeah. There's a mystery here.
And then it's up to Dissonant Waves to solve it.
Indeed.
Favorites, least favorites.
I really don't have a least favorite. I guess if I had to put one, it would be like Triple XL because of just how jarring and out of place it is, but like it still works in the context, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite is Midlife Time Crisis.
I think my least favorite would be Doom and Gloom because that's just the only point where I was like, maybe this dips down a little bit, but not even that much. Like I think the album is really solid from beginning to end. I really like how's it gonna end. Midlife Time Crisis is great. I really like Triple XL. I always am a fan of those short 20-second tracks that appear for no reason.
Yeah.
The whole album is just really good. The things I hate about me.
Listen to it.
Yeah, like one of the biggest surprises we've had in a minute. Which leaves us
Yeah.
then with, well, what did Riddle
Lana
say
Del
anything about what he
Rey.
liked?
Um, I just remember him saying that he thought it dipped down towards the end, but started kind of strong.
Okay. Yeah. Also, I should note that Ritz was here for the first part if you listened to it, and then he had to go to bed,
Yeah,
and so an hour
it's
and a half
currently
later
like
we had to,
midnight in
yeah,
Australia.
yeah. So we just had to do what we could. So we shout out to Ritz. I hope you're doing all right.
I was
But
just
in the
playing
mean,
Honey Pop on the while we were waiting.
but that leaves us at Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, this was a interesting album. This is the first Lana Del Rey I listened to.
Really,
Yes,
I think Born to Die is an interesting album. It has a number of good songs on it. Like I've wanted to do Lana.
I'll have to delve into her a little bit more.
Yeah, we're doing Chemtrails over the Country Club to be specific. But I wanted to do
Yeah,
Lana ever since her 2019 album, Norman fucking Rockwell. But I just when I listened to that, I wasn't big into it because I never did it. But I'm glad to pick this one because this is more interesting. I feel like.
yeah, it's a very like almost like laid back, um, satirical look at Americana. I feel like would be like a way to put it.
I mean, Lana's always been about kind of like Americana, nostalgic 60s kind of stuff. Like that's her whole image.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, like she captures that nostalgia, she captures that kind of cinematic feel. And that's why a lot of people consider her to be like an industry plant. That's why people consider her to be very like fake because it's all like such a specific act to put on. But I mean,
yeah,
like it does create some really interesting music.
yeah. This was an interesting album. I don't think I would have listened to it had you not linked it, but I did enjoy it.
Like I feel like this is kind of what Tristan wants to be.
Yeah, although Tristan has a bit more of like a more southern country twang to it.
Sure. I mean, Wikipedia lists this as like a country Americana album, which I don't entirely agree with.
It's Americana, not really country.
Yeah, it's more folky Americana, but not, yeah. But
Yeah,
like from the first track, it really grabs your attention. Like it's just very like soothing and like
yeah,
beautiful sounding. And her delivery is very unique and kind of what captures you off guard the most.
yeah.
Like
I feel like it doesn't really do much outside of just the album feels like a bit of a one trick pony, but like it does that one trick well.
and then it keeps finding different ways to at least iterate on that and keep you going.
Yeah,
Like it's the same stuff kind of, but like I can still think of several of these songs and kind of like remember them differently. You know, she still finds a way to make them unique and interesting. However, like her really complicated syllable work on White Dress down at the Men in Music Business Conference. Quite a line to throw into there.
yeah,
I don't know, like I just feel like there's like that whole song in particular is kind of about her and about like pre-fame and like look where I've gone, look at where I was, just enjoying music, listening to fucking Kings of Leon. Fuck that band. But
yeah,
she was a waitress, and then here she is 10 years and some change later, and she's this big pop star putting out this album.
which respect to that.
Yeah. Norman fucking Rockwell was nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys for some reason. This is kind of her moment to really
Yeah,
bask in like that kind of notch up. And I don't know, I feel like this is like a thing for some pop stars where it's like, let me go country, let me go folky, let me go Americana for a minute. Kind of like
yeah,
when Lady Gaga did like Joanne. But I feel like this album really does it well.
it
It
does.
doesn't feel like a gimmick.
No,
And this really fits in with like what her overall image and style is of just very nostalgic 60s style like stuff.
I
Like
can't
it
really weigh in that, but I'll agree, I guess.
well, yeah, it's like it feels like it's a brave move for her, but it also feels like it completely fits within what she does.
Yeah, that's understandable.
My favorite track on here is like Wild at Heart, and it's all just because her vocal delivery is so interesting and clear and compassionate and like just soothing. And I don't know how many
All
other
right,
artists
all
can
right.
really convey so much in a song like that all the time.
Yeah,
Like there are plenty who can, but I just feel like it's a rare for something to be so calming and so like, but yet to express so many different kinds of emotions.
yeah. It's
I don't know.
definitely she's got a great voice, and it
Yes.
really carries the album.
Yeah, it's interesting that, 10 years ago, it was a catastrophe that she went on like Saturday Night Live and her performance was not very good and she didn't perform on TV for a long time after that. And it's like, oh, can she really sing? Kind of like the Britney thing. Can Britney
Yeah,
really sing? And then, of course, she releases the fucking unedited audio and you're like, oh, of course she can.
yeah,
I know, like the song Yosemite was a cut song from an album from a few years ago that she finally released on this album, and it doesn't really feel out of place or anything.
no, it doesn't.
I don't know, like what songs stand out to you?
I don't think Ritz had much to say about this album.
No,
I think he liked it better. He liked it better than La Bouquet.
that's funny to me.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't think any of these albums are perfect. I think they all have their flaws, but I think a lot of good stuff too. Like for La Bouquet, like I think it's a sound that has definitely been done before, so it's nothing like
yeah,
groundbreaking or anything. But I do like what it does. And for like Lana,
yeah.
it's like again, go ahead.
You can be fun and not breaking.
Right. Like I think for Lana, I think this album is pretty solid throughout. It just kind of maybe dies down a bit at the end a bit more than La Bouquet does. Breaking up slowly around there is when it really starts to. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was just scratching my head.
Oh, yeah. Like somewhere around breaking up slowly when she gets a couple features on there, it maybe dies down a little. And she even covers like a Joni Mitchell song, and she talks about that in "Dance Till We Die," which I thought was really interesting. How she kind of like she says she has a song setting up that she's going to cover Joni Mitchell, and then she covers Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
Oh my computer is finally coming on. Oh my god. It's only been
Hey, you're gonna
almost
be
two
good for
hours
your
later.
second podcast.
Yeah, I have another recording to do after this. That'll be nice. But I guess I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like ignore this. Yeah. Like I was surprised how much I dug this album. I was not sure how I was gonna feel about it. Since I started doing the thing that you and Ritz suggested of like, hey, you should like listen to the albums before you suggest them.
Yeah.
And this was an album that's like, hey, actually, this doesn't sound bad. This doesn't sound like something I can just easily forget about and move on. I like this. I think
Yeah.
the benefit of having go on.
I was gonna say I will definitely come back to this album.
Yeah. I think the benefit that we had for having 2 weeks to listen to this stuff is that it really took me like a week to kind of digest these albums and like understand what I liked and didn't like about them.
Yeah.
And even like for something like Squid, even I still don't quite understand what turns me like not into like a super fan of it or something. But like I know for Squid, it was kind of that moment where like Ritz was talking it up really big, and you were like, "Oh yeah, I like Squid." And then I turn on the album, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Is this really what this is? Is this like a joke? Like this sounds fine, but like I don't know about amazing revolutionary work or anything." But
Yeah.
yeah. And then none of these albums this week I don't think are like to that level of the best we've heard this year, but they're all solid.
No. Yeah. The like if you put any of these albums on in like a car or something, I don't think anybody would complain.
Someone might complain about Squid, I think.
Fair enough.
That, that
Depending on
that
your friends.
David Byrne's style of delivery is very hit or miss if it's not Talking Heads.
Yeah. Which
You have
you
much else to
saying
say?
David Byrne for Squid kind of makes sense why I enjoy it so much, or liked them.
Yeah, like I was definitely thinking about that. I was thinking about what's that dude's name? Maxwell something? Samwell something? I don't remember. The guy who did that song.
Samwell, the what in the butt guy.
No, the guy who did the song "Somebody's Watching Me."
Let's see here, because
It's an
Sam
80s
was
song.
the bug guy.
Yes, I know it's not him. Yeah, the song is Somebody's Watching Me.
Rockwell.
Rockwell, yes, that's it. But he has like a similar, like kind of like speaking in a cadence style of singing, and it's definitely
Mhm.
like a style that I can appreciate. I just don't know if I totally love it here. When
Yeah, I feel that.
especially compared to like Lana, like La Bouquet coming in with like a very nice indie sound.
Yeah,
If it gone up against other albums, it might be different. But I don't know. This week it just did not land.
I feel that.
My computer is up and running finally.
That is good.
We'll see. It's
But yeah, you want to get into favorites, least favorites, and then
yeah. Let's
introduce
do
what
it.
we're doing next week?
Let's do it. And we'll rank the albums too.
Yes.
So favorites for me, Wild at Heart, definitely my favorite one on the album. White Dress is also really good. I think Yosemite is a standout, and Chemtrails over the Country Club. My least favorite's probably Breaking Up Slowly.
Yeah. Favorites. White Dress was great. Tulsa Jesus Freak I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I kind of just dug this whole album, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, it's really good.
Like it was a slow burn. I think I'm actually going to rate it higher than Squid.
Wow. And no least favorites, you said?
Yeah, no real least favorites.
All right. So let's do the rankings then. Let's do Ritz's ranking first.
His was La Bouquet, Lana Del Rey, and then Squid.
And Squid number one being
Squid is number one. Yes.
for him. And I think for me, it would be the opposite of Squid third, Lana Del Rey second, La Bouquet third.
And I'm going to agree with that.
What an incredible turn of events.
Yes.
Cool. So that's both of us then. La Bouquet number one, Lana Del Rey number two, and Squid number three, which then leads us into next week. Let's talk about Ritz's pick first.
He's doing the latest Dr. Colossus album. I think it's like You're a Sticky Butthead or something like that.
Let me see if I can find it on the Discord chat.
It's
It is I'm a
I'm a
stupid
stupid
moron with an ugly
moron,
face and a big butt, and my butt smells.
and I like to kiss my own butt.
Ah, okay. Yeah, the title kind of trailed off for me there.
Yeah.
So that's an album.
It's Simpsons doom metal, apparently.
Okay. And I am picking my next phase of the Of Montreal Georgie Fruit saga. We're gonna do the Controller Sphere EP, which comes after Skeletal Lamping, and then we're gonna pair that with the deluxe edition of False Priest, which is my favorite album of Montreal's. The deluxe edition has a couple extra songs that I think are important, and the EP really does a good job, I think, bridging the two albums. And then we
All
will
right.
wrap up this saga not too long after
Alrighty then.
this. I'm kind of excited to bring it to a close before the year ends. So then you have a thing.
Yeah, I have a bit of a messy thing. It's like 4 EPs and a compilation album. So Petite League was on a compilation album back in 2017 called Noteworthy '01, and there's a lot of bangers on that. And so I'm like, okay, a lot of these bands only released like 1 EP or a couple singles. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna like knock all of these guys out now. I can use this as a jumping off point for some of the other bands that have a bit more released. And
Yeah.
so I have like a whole playlist that I'll get into. There's there's obviously Petite League. Native Sun is a band I'm covering. Grim Streaker, Blastroid, the 94 Nicks, Thick, and Your Dog.
Repeat those again, please.
It is. I'm just gonna go in the order of the compilation album. Plain Dog, Petite League, Grim Streaker, Your Dog, Blastroid, Native Sun, the 94 Nicks, and Thick.
Wow. Okay. And which of them have EPs?
Grim Streaker, Your Dog, Blastroid, and Thick.
So it's Grim Streaker's EP. How do you spell your dog? It's just your dog, Your.
Your dog. Your.
Okay. And then
Uh,
Blastroid.
yes. And
And
thick,
how do you spell thick?
which is thick, just normally all caps.
Very thick. All
Yes.
right, that'll be an interesting little thing to listen to. I dig this
Yeah.
chaos.
It's chaotic and it's a lot, but it'll be fun, I think.
Yes, this is another I don't know how long the Dr. Colossus album is, but
It's 12 tracks, I think.
it's like 7, I think. Well, at least the one that he
Uh,
linked was like 7. But they could be
yeah,
long
but
songs.
and a couple of the bands have singles too, like Plain Dog just has Cherry Cola. I have an optional Native Son EP. I've got a couple optional stuff. I'll get into it a bit more. I'll post it in the chat. But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, just give us a whole breakdown in the chat. Yeah.
I will.
All right. It'll be quite a bit of listening, but I think it'll be fun. It'll be a nice
Yes,
little return to form after having a couple weeks of break.
indeed. It's been a while since I've got messy, and I think it's time for me to get messy.
Yes. Well, that's gonna do it for us then.
Have a good
You be
one.
sure. Yeah, you be sure to send me this file ASAP or put it in like a Google Drive or something so I can like get it as quickly as I can.
I will. I'll send you the link to because what Craig does is he just DMs me a link. I'll send you that link.
Yeah, please. Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter at DACICHOCKI, Tilting Windmill Studios, blah blah blah, writing and stuff, and YouTube and all that. And Dissonant Waves has a YouTube you're on, and we have Twitter at Dissonant
Twitter,
Waves, Dissonant Waves dot
Dissonant Waves,
space.
space. Go play Ritalин's game.
Yes, SYDE Rugby Simulator.
Astronaut, procrastinating astronaut underscore. Yeah.
We're going through this real quickly because of the issues we've been having, and yada yada yada. Can't wait to edit this one together. Oh boy.
This will be chaotic.
Have a good day, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye. I gotta just type Craig leave.